Alright, hello, citizens of the Nigelverse. It is Nigel once again. Better late than never, I guess. It's time for another wrestling review, and I'm finally getting around to talking about NXT Battleground. And admittedly, I am kind of glad I did for a few reasons. There's some stuff that came out, some stuff that happened that kind of puts some things in the show into a bit more perspective, and then some stuff that advances some of the things from the show as well. Also, we're going to review NXT Battleground that took place a couple weeks ago. So as always, not professional wrestling reviewer or analyst. Just manages a good time, and for the most part, I would say I had a pretty good time with the show. So without further ado, let's get right into it. And if you've seen these reviews before, you kind of know how this works. If you haven't, I'm going to be talking about what I like and dislike about the show and the matches, and we're going to go match by match. So right off the bat, the guest host for, and speaking of those hindsight things, the guest host for Battleground here was rapper Sexy Red, who was arrested earlier that day for getting into a brawl at the airport. Now, admittedly, the footage was there. I didn't really watch the footage. Not out of loyalty to Sexy Red. I'm not super familiar with her music, but more so just never got around to seeing it. But the fact that she was arrested, bailed out, and still showed up to NXT Battleground all within the same day is pretty crazy. But and nevertheless, first up was the ladder match for the inaugural NXT Women's North American Champion as Kalani Jordan and Sol Ruka, Lash Legend, Fallon Henley, Jada Parker, and Michin all battle to become the first NXT North American Champion, and of course the NXT Women's North American Champion, I should say. So the NXT Women's North American Championship was announced at Stand and Deliver, and so this was the ladder match to determine who the inaugural champion would be, and who won that match? Kalani Jordan, of course. So, excuse me, congrats to her. I mentioned in my predictions that this could go in a number of ways, and I wouldn't mind seeing any of these women winning it. I must say, I am happy with Kalani Jordan winning it. Glad to see her getting some momentum as well. I think all these women did pretty solidly. He in this match had some cool ladder spots and some cool moments throughout. And so congrats to Kalani Jordan. But then next up, Nathan Fraser and Axiom defended their NXT Tag Team Championships against the OC. So the OC are within NXT now. And we're gunning for the NXT Tag Team Championships. But were they able to capture them from Axiom and Nathan Frazier? Well, no, but it's still still a pretty solid encounter here. But one gripe I have was with the entrance, because Axiom's part of the entrance isn't in slow motion anymore. He enters in with Nathan Frazier, of course, and they kind of do that. Normally, when it comes to like tag teams and tag team entrances, when it's like two guys who are like singles guys, and they kind of mash them together, or instead of they don't always give them like the tag team theme. Sometimes they just mash up their entrances. And we're seeing that with like Axiom and Nathan Frazier, but Axiom doesn't have like the slow mo or like the quick motion part of his entrance anymore, or which does kind of suck. But nevertheless, still a pretty solid encounter here, and Frazier and Axiom kind of getting the surprise win over Carl Anderson, at least pinning Carl Anderson, and kind of a surprise move in order to pick up the win and retain the NXT Tag Team Championship. So congrats to the champions there. But then, and next up in the NXT Underground match, Lola Vice battled Shayna Baszler. So, Shayna Baszler and Lola Vice kind of had a partnership going on. And Lola Vice turned on Shayna Baszler, or Baszler saying, hey, she came back to NXT and he helped out Lola Vice, and she made her and taking some umbrage to Lola Vice, kind of spitting in the face of that a little bit. So, kind of going into their roots with kind of an MMA style match, which is obviously more like the underground environment, that NXT underground environment and everything. And you know what? Between this match, when it comes to like MMA centered matches is this match was what Shayna Baszler versus Ronda Rousey at SummerSlam last year should have been, because this match actually, it was pretty solid. Like I think not having the ropes and not playing too much into where it feels like super MMA, yeah, I think really helped out. Plus us them going to the outside, interacting, ringside with like the tables and the steel steps and everything, and I think also helped as well. Ultimately, Little Vice making Shayna Baszler pass out the referee. He's stopping the match. That's usually the tap out or pass out, and Shayna Baszler passed out to Little Vice. Wins and dances another day. So. Oh, but yeah, so kind of an MMA match, I think, done right for the most part. It's what the match at SummerSlam should have been. Ultimately, obviously, it wasn't. But yeah, so this match was pretty solid. It is the shortest match of the night, but not bad. But then next up for the NXT North American Championship, Obafemi defended against both was Wesley and Joe Coffey of Gallus. So, of course, Gallus gunning for the NXT North American Championship. Same with Wesley. Wesley having returned not too long ago. Gunning for Obafemi. So was Obafemi able to overcome both of them? Well, the answer to that is yes. So some solid action between these three. I think worked really well against each other, including some very hard spot. So within this match, some very cool triple threat matches triple threat matches, and admittedly sometimes can be hit or miss, but I think this one was really fun, and I would say, hey, all three of these guys, especially Obafemi, he has really been on fire, and it's easy to see why WWE sees such great things in him. At one point, Gallus did try to get involved, but ultimately they were stopped both by Wesley and by Obafemi. But Obafemi ultimately he putting away Wesley to pick up the win here. At least I believe it was Wesley that he ended up pinning to retain the North American Championship. But another major story, it was afterwards Wesley attacked by Gallus, and it seemed like someone was going to come to his rescue, but they did not. They were just pulled off by the referees. Man, if there was a couple guys who could have came to Wesley's aid, maybe like a couple, maybe a couple rascals or so. I don't know. Oh, but literally afterwards, on Twitter, Zachary Wentz tweeted out that they're always a call away. Hey, but speaking of TNA tie-ins, next up in the semi-main event for the NXT Women's Championship, Roxanne Perez has the Prodigy defended against the TNA Knockouts champion Jordan Grace, which the whole WWE and TNA working relationship nowadays, especially after years of TNA at first kind of being competition to WWE, then kind of they are still competition by proxy, but in the sense of almost seemed like they had the answers to truly combat WWE, and then proving not to be the case, going down and down and down. But then now they're buddy. They have this working relationship. It's definitely surreal, and it would get more surreal when we got to the 25-man battle royal last night on NXT. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. But as for this match, had some pretty solid work. I think this is the one that a lot of people were looking forward to the most. It was not just because of the talent of both these women, but also because of just the absolute that aforementioned surrealness of it. The fact that this feels like alternate timeline, not in a bad way. In fact, quite the opposite. Alternate timeline. What is this reality we're living in where WWE and TNA are having this working relationship, and a TNA star is in WWE and a WWE star is in TNA. Which of course Tatum Paxley, we'll get to her, but Tatum Paxley did end up battling Jordan Grace for at the TNA Knockouts Championship. But as for this match, had some pretty solid action between the two, including like towards the beginning of the match where Jordynne Grace's earring came out. It ripped right out of her ear, and it ripped her ear, and she was bleeding. Now, I saw the bleeding during the match. I was like, whoa, why is she bleeding? And where's she bleeding from? Like, it was kind of hard to tell where she was bleeding from because I guess what the blood did was like trickle from her ear and then go like across the side of her jaw. So I wasn't really sure. But then, and it was confirmed, Jordynne Grace saying she's retiring, wearing earrings in the ring during her matches because obviously she ripped her ear and there was a lot of blood and stuff like that. I wasn't sure if it was coming from her mouth, but judging by kind of the angle trajectory, I probably could have guessed the ear. But yeah, so pretty crazy there, and kind of a almost bordering on David versus Goliath story. Roxanne, and obviously much smaller than Jordynne, so having to work around with the strength disadvantage and everything, and Jordynne, and a pretty strong showing for her as well. And Jordynne not losing entirely clean because Tatum Paxley he showed up to ringside, abducted the TNA Knockouts Championship. It was going to run off with it, but she was stopped by Dana Brooke. I mean Ash by Elegance. Big Joseph's words, not mine, but. So she was stopped there, and Jordynne was distracted by that, allowing Roxanne Perez to pick up the win there. So props to Roxanne for picking up the win. Jordynne Grace looked strong even in defeat. The fact that she didn't lose entirely clean, she lost via distraction from outside shenanigans, and I think does protect her in a way. And with Tatum Paxley then showing up, continuing that feud and trying to challenge for the Knockouts Championship and ultimately coming up short against Jordynne Grace, the Forbidden Door has been kicked wide open, and WWE and TNA are definitely full-on working together, which is really cool and still really surreal to see. But last certainly not least, is something else that was probably surreal to see. For the NXT Championship in the main event, hence Trick Williams defending against All Ego Ethan Page. So, Ethan Page showed up in NXT. He showed up in NXT, reveals he was the one who attacked Noam Dar and Oro Mensah, and even earlier in the day before Battleground, and pre-taped Oro Mensah trying to beat down on Ethan Page before the show as well, trying to get payback for himself and the Metaphor. So getting his payback there, but nevertheless, Ethan Page talking about how he's a free agent and didn't really sign to NXT just yet. Had demanded the shot at the NXT Championship. Evan Trick said, "You know what? Give it to him. Give whatever he wants, just so I can beat him down." And was Trick Williams able to whoop that Trick and retain? Well, yeah. Yes, but Ethan, and I still think looked pretty good for the most part, against Trick. And it's crazy to think that in his first match in not just NXT but WWE, he is the main event as for the NXT Championship. But I think Ethan Page looked relatively good there. Admittedly, haven't seen a whole lot of Ethan Page's work in AEW, unfortunately, but I think he looked pretty solid against Trick there for the most part. Ultimately, Ethan Page's own ego getting the way as he was arguing with the ref, allowing Trick Williams to nail him with the Trick shot in order to pick up the win. But things far from over. So, of course, in the aforementioned 25-man Battle Royal, which featured both Frankie Kazarian and Joe Hendry, who he say his name, and he did indeed appear. And man, what a expert level troll. Joe Hendry gets the entrance, and his theme song goes off. The crowd pops. Joe Hendry talks about how he's going to win in the Battle Royal and everything. Then immediately he dumped out like the first one to go in about a minute and a half at the fans chanting BS. That's like on one hand I knew Joe Hendry probably wasn't going to win the match. On the other hand, did he really have to be the first to go and so quickly? But ultimately, Javion Edwards picking up the win and against or it might be Javion Evans, if I'm not mistaken, and picking up the win in the Battle Royal, but then losing later on in the night to Ethan Page. So things far from over between Ethan Page and Trick Williams. Him. So I imagine, and not how that Javion Javion Evans. Sorry, I'm horrible with names, but now that Javion Evans has won, and yes, and pretty impressive so far. Like him being relatively young. I think he's only about 19, if I'm not mistaken. But him being relatively young and still incredibly talented, pretty solid. In the ring, like actually absolutely fantastic. But of course he had faced Trick Williams previously, so tying that in together, and now Ethan Page gunning for Trick Williams as well. So I imagine this will likely lead to a triple threat at the next NXT event and Heat Wave. Hopefully, it won't take me as long to review that show. But as for this one, and pretty solid show on the whole, I would say for the most part. If I had to pick the strongest and weakest matches of Battleground, the strongest and weakest matches of the night, the strongest this would probably go to who I accidentally dropped my mouse here, or I'll grab it in a second. But the strongest, I think, would probably go to, for the amount of interest. It's not just for the work that both the women put in, but for the actual interest in the match. I would definitely go with the NXT Women's Championship match. Like a lot of people are interested in it. A lot of people just definitely partly the match itself, partly the spectacle of here's this major name from TNA, the current TNA Knockouts champion, going against the NXT Women's Champion. Just has definitely hyped it up and sold it on that merit, and it definitely paid off in that regard. All right, and for the weakest match, if I had to pick one, maybe the tag team championship match, or maybe the underground. I think I might go with. I'll probably go with the tag team title match. Not because it was bad, just as compared to everything else, not quite as didn't quite have as much of that oomph to it. But otherwise, so a pretty solid show for the most part. But nevertheless, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do me a favor: like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, and turn post notifications so you know every time I upload a video, so you can see the drops. And let me know in the comments what your thoughts on NXT Battleground and my review. Do you like Battleground? Do you like my review of Battleground? Let me know. Thank you all so much for watching. And also let me know in the comments your thoughts on the working relationship now between WWE and TNA. Where you think it will pay off in the long run. How do you think it will unfold? Well, but thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you guys later. Peace.